Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to Wednesday, July 17th on the Beluga boat. If it's your first time tuning in, we are here on the Churchill River on the explore.org and Polar Bears International live Beluga camera viewing boat in Churchill, Manitoba, Canada. Before we get started, we'll just acknowledge that we're operating on Treaty 5 territory here in Manitoba, the traditional homelands of the Cree, Dene, Inuit, and Métis people. Our activities for the day are going to include watching, filming, and listening to beluga whales. If we're lucky, we'll get a seal. And hopefully we'll also see some of our birds out there for our birders. We'll check out for some yagers and Arctic terns and maybe a duck or a geese or two. You're here with Captain Tara. I have three guests on the boat today. Two guests from the Assiniboia Park Zoo. I am super happy to welcome Stefan back this year. It is his first day back on the boat. And we have Kayla from Polar Bears International, visiting from the Portland, Oregon area. And Casey, also from the Assiniboia Park Zoo, is back for another day on the Beluga boat with us. So we're really excited to get some more education for our Assiniboia Park Zoo experts. Kayla from Polar Bears International is a self-proclaimed birder, so hopefully if we see some birds, we'll maybe get some interesting facts from her. And with the sun shining and the water as calm as glass, I think we're in for a beautiful day today. So thanks everyone for tuning in. We're going to find some beluga whales and we'll come back and chat with you soon. Don't forget to tune into that message board, and if you have any questions for our resident experts, we will be monitoring that for any of your questions, and we're just happy to answer them. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Check in soon. Hello, Beluga buddies. If you're just tuning in, hopefully you caught some belugas that were just looked like they were doing a little bit of feeding behavior directly behind the boat. They're definitely out today. We're seeing a few as we're moving along. We're also doing a lot of swatting of the horseflies today. As it turns out, they like the heat in Churchill as much as we do. So we've just begun a small troll to hopefully keep them at bay, as they really seem to like any sort of moving vehicle. They're a little bit more of a pest. We're very lucky they're not attacking us. But gosh, do they ever like vehicles, whether it be boats or cars or what. So a little bit of a slow troll to hopefully shake some of those guys. But you can just see on that on-deck cam what kind of a beautiful day we're having. The water is like glass, and we've already seen some belugas out, so we are going to call it a win. Thanks for tuning in today. Looks like we've got a pod feeding just off our port or left side, just behind us there. So hopefully our canops are able to pan over to that. They're kind of keeping pace with the boat, so can't quite get ahead of them yet. But if we're looking over to the left or port side of the boat, we should be able to see them on our on-deck camera. Hello, Beluga buddies. We're just getting a little bit of a different angle here on the boat, but I thought we could take this moment to introduce a first-time guest on the Beluga boat. We've got Kayla from Polar Bears International, so I'm going to pass it off to her and let her introduce herself and tell you guys what she does with PBI. Kayla, go ahead.
Thanks, Tara. Yeah, I am so excited to be out here on this beautiful day. I would never guess that you could have weather this warm and beautiful here in Churchill on this riding on the Beluga boat on the Churchill River. My name is Kayla McCurry, and I am an outreach specialist for Polar Bears International. I work from Portland, Oregon, and I'm so delighted to once again be up here in the north with our friends and viewing this spectacular wildlife. Today we're seeing a lot of really great beluga behavior, as well as a ton of great birds flying up above us and resting and nesting on the rocks on the shore. My primary role with Polar Bears International is education and outreach. We do a lot of virtual programming, including the Beluga boat program that you're tuned into right now. In the fall, we have our Tundra Connection programs where we broadcast live from Tundra Buggy 1 on the provided by Frontiers North Adventures, live from the tundra weekly throughout the bear season. So we hope you'll join us for some of those programs, as well as Arctic Sea Ice Day, which just passed this last Monday. We have three Save Our Sea Ice Day awareness events each year: International Polar Bear Day, Polar Bear Week, and Arctic Sea Ice Day.
Awesome. Thanks, Kayla. And correct me if I'm wrong, but are you also really involved with the Tundra Connection tie-in for the education that Polar Bears tries to bring for teachers in schools?
Yeah, we have a ton of great curriculum resources and outreach materials for classrooms, specifically designed for teachers to enhance your curriculum that you're already doing in your classrooms, and outreach events specifically for you that you can tune in live and ask questions to scientists and get those answers live for you on the air.
Yeah, I've tuned in. I think a few of our Beluga buddies here, just because they know the tie-in with Polar Bears International, have tuned into the Tundra Connections as well and seen a lot of that, like give and take. I know I've mentioned it a couple times. I definitely talked about it last year, but Kayla was one of the main people involved in a little role play video that we did, where we can sort of like teaching people how to talk to your friends about climate change and different ways of bringing that up with your friends. And I really appreciated some of the, I don't know, I guess I want to call like weave and pivots that you guys offered for, especially if you have some people who are like, I don't believe all that stuff. The earth runs in cycles, and just sort of how you can like weave and pivot. I really found that to be such a beneficial viewing program. So I was really excited to meet Kayla this year, and I hope there's going to be maybe even some more of that coming up in the future.
It's very timely that you say that, because it can be really challenging to start those conversations, especially when you don't know what the person sitting across from you, where they're at or what they think. We just released on Arctic Sea Ice Day, actually, last Monday, was the first episode of this season's talking about climate change. These really short, like 90-second videos. You can find them on our social media. We're going to be releasing one a week throughout the month, just to kind of help give that reassurance, right, when you're starting these tough conversations. Well, conversations we anticipate to be tough, even when they might turn out a little bit better than we anticipated.
Oh, I love that so much. I've been quite busy since Arctic Sea Ice Day on the water, but I'm super excited to hear that. I'm going to have to find that and check it out. And for those of you at home too, I always encourage you guys to get on and explore.org has got all those live videos. They work closely in partnership with Polar Bears International for, as we know, the Beluga cam, and then the polar bear cams, and also some of the Northern Light cams that we offer in Churchill. But make sure you're on that Polar Bears International social media pages too. I know personally I just have Facebook and Instagram, but they're on all the things, and then you can actually sign up even to get little updates when they're sharing information. So even if you're not a teacher, I always encourage anybody who's got kids in their lives. These are two things that you can use to start dialogues with like your grandchildren or children around you. What's your favorite animal? And also like some of these resources. And I'm so excited to hear that there's actually more coming out for conversation based solutions, because I think what we try to say now is like it really just does start one on one, and that's how we build to not only like educate more people, but get people more involved in the bigger community levels, and then bigger than that, beyond into like government and voting and organizations. But everything kind of starts with you. So I'm so excited to hear that you guys are putting out more. Kayla, that's so awesome because the first round was really, really good. So thanks for sharing. As we get some bird action, I'm going to call on you back. Kayla's seen some Arctic ducks already, but so far the birds are a little quiet. I'm kind of looking for a little feeding zone, but I have yet to see one. But we'll bring Kayla back on a little bit later, especially if we can talk more about some of her efforts within Polar Bears International or her personal efforts in birding. Thanks, guys. Hey, beluga buddies. We have found our whales resurfacing here. We just changed our location a little bit, so I'm gonna try to get an optimal angle for the belugas. We do see feeding a little bit of a slow feed, I'd say. I wouldn't call it a frenzy, but they are doing a little bit of a slow feed today. So hopefully you guys catch that as we get in position. But I did notice that Camop Sonata's got a question for Kayla. So, how prone are seabirds to mercury accumulation or poisoning from the fish they eat? I'll just, in case she's right stumped here, I will just point out that Kayla's a hobby birder, not a professional birding scientist. But being that you are into science things, I'll pass it off to you if you have any thoughts on that.
Great question. Thank you for being someone who thinks of our beloved birds. You know, I am not an expert in bioaccumulation and how that mercury impacts these predators up the food chain, but we are very lucky to have Stefan on board who might be able to weigh in a little bit more on that.
So happy to have Stefan, as we do always defer to him.
For better or for worse. So I know from some of the work that myself and colleagues have done on ring seals, we know that levels of mercury vary throughout the entire Arctic. And so it depends on where animals are, how much accumulation they'll actually have. So as they accumulate, some segments of the population can get rid of it in maybe unusual ways. So mothers, when they metabolize their fat, where a lot of that mercury builds up, when they metabolize that fat and invest in offspring, they'll transfer some of that load onto their offspring. So, mothers can keep their levels down. So similarly with mother birds laying eggs, they can keep that mercury down even when they're starting to accumulate it. I don't know of any research that's come out that has really flagged, fitness or problems for Arctic birds with mercury, but I imagine some of the longer lived species in certain parts of the Arctic do have to deal with various loads. Excuse me. So, there's probably somewhere out there who's made an entire career of that exact question, um, which speaks to how awesome that question is.
Leave it to Camop Sonata. I always we get the best and hardest questions. I don't know if you've just got a band of brothers behind you asking a ton of questions, but I always look forward to the questions asked by Camop Sonata because they're always they're just great. They're great questions. They provoke a lot of discussion. I did just want to say too that finally we have remembered the binoculars on the boat, and Mr. Stefan has spotted two bald eagles in the area. So I don't know how much we talk about birds on the beluga boat, but I can tell you that a quick drive around Churchill is going to give you some bald eagle sightings. So that's really neat that he caught some on the shore on the water. I have my contacts and Coke bottle glasses, and I still can't see that far away. So it's nice to have that pointed out. Poor Kayla's only been here a day or two, but speaking of birds, did you have any things you were like really hoping to catch while you were up here?
Well, I am already so excited at the species diversity we've seen just since we popped onto the boat. In addition to those bald eagles, we've had a big flock of eiders, which are a type of sea duck. We've had parasitic jaegers flying overhead, and they do nest on the shore just nearby, as well as Arctic terns. One's flying over the boat right now. We've had some bonobard skulls and some herring gulls. And on the shoreline, we had some Hudsonian godwits, which, if you're a fan of shorebirds, they're lovely, and they were there with some of their offspring. So, great species diversity for birds. Great viewing out today with this flat water. And we've got some belugas coming right behind the boat. If you're looking at that underwater cam or the above water cam, you might be able to see them following us right now.
Yeah, even something to possibly look forward to, Kayla. I'll say today the birds do not seem to be out currently in full force right now, but For some of our viewers who were with us a couple days ago, you could literally see the Jaegers stealing from the turns from our on deck camera. A couple of our moderators and photographers on board actually caught a couple pictures that were posted on the message board of like the bird just flying so close to the camera that some of our viewers were like, "Holy smokes! Like, how big are those birds? They looked huge." But it was just the fact that the bird was quite close to the camera. But it's definitely something when you're out on the boat that you'll see. The Jaegers are literally stealing the fish out of the mouth of the Arctic terns. So it's kind of a neat thing. Our guest the other day from the Assiniboine Park Zoo, Courtney, referred to the Jaegers as pirates. The pirates of
Oh
the
yeah,
air. They're just stealing
definitely.
stuff. Oh, yeah, looks like we did catch those whales there. Oh, it's some great footage. And right now I'm just moving slowly here because it seems like they're all around us. And hopefully anybody on the underwater cam is hearing some of those sounds. I can hear them resonating through the boat. So hopefully you guys are catching those too. Hi, friends. So hopefully you caught some of the other zodiacs in the picture there. We were all waving to guests of one of the local tour companies around here. So hopefully you guys all waved at home as well. I was just asking Stefan here what kind of fun things have been going on at the zoo. And I thought, well, what better place to have him not only tell me, but tell all the viewers who are probably curious as well. So what have you guys been up to? Do tell.
Yeah, we've been working very, very hard. The stuff that I'm most proud of is the work that our conservation team has been doing. So this spring we were up here in Churchill putting satellite tags on harbor seals. We've been trying to learn more about harbor seals for the last few years, and over the last 2 years, I think we've really started to dial in our ability to catch them. Um, and we do that right in the spring before they can get up the river to the traditional haul-out site that they have up near the weir, which is the water control structure that's just about 13 kilometers from the mouth of the river.
Is that, sorry to interrupt, is when you're tagging them, is that something you're doing when there's still ice on the river or after the
Yeah.
breakup?
No, we need to get that. We have this little window when they can't get up the river, but they really want to get up the river.
So they're
So,
lurking, like
yeah,
how the polar bears lurk, waiting for ice.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So the thought is that harbor seal. So we have harbor seals and ring seals are probably the two most common seal that we have around here. During the summer, if you see a seal, it's usually a harbor seal. Um, but harbor seals are more of a temperate seal, so they're really common, in the Atlantic and Pacific, in warmer waters. But they do occur in the Arctic. They're maybe just like not as good at the Arctic, at Arcticing, if that's a word, than ring seals are. So we come out. Oh, so I guess the end of that is because sea ice is changing, it's making it a bit easier for harbor seals to be in the Arctic. And so we did some work looking at numbers of harbor seals and showed kind of an increase that coincided with lighter ice in Hudson's Bay.
Like they're migrating north or just lurking around longer?
No, they stay here all year round, but they're out. They don't dig holes in the sea ice like ring seals do. They have
Okay.
to rely on when there's cracks in the ice up to breathe. So
Okay.
if you got really heavy ice years, it's harder for them to make a living. But I think the big thing is they pop and have babies in the rivers.
Okay. I think
So if
we
they
knew that
can
from
get,
last year.
yeah, so if they can get out of polar bear land and into the river earlier, those pups don't really have to deal with predation until they're, you know, till the fall, where they're bigger, they're smarter, they're faster.
Right.
So we're trying to learn more about how harbor seals are making a living here. Um, and we know they're using rivers, so we're putting satellite tags on them to understand, where they're going to eat, how deep are they foraging, how are they using the rivers.
And I
This,
think
oh,
I was hearing from some of the gals there that they shed these tags in a couple years.
so sooner than that. So we've been putting on two types of tags. One is attached like a piercing on their flippers, so those ones last longer. But the bigger ones, they're glued between their shoulder blades,
Yeah,
and
okay.
when they molt, they'll come off. So by the end of the summer,
Oh,
most of
seasonal.
those have come off because they molt. We think they're molting maybe during the summer, but by August, most of them will be molted.
And is that like the same as the bear tags where you have to go fetch the tag or you're already like getting the data in live time?
Yeah, so these are satellites, so we get it almost real time
Okay,
data.
cool.
Um, yeah, one of the seals that we tagged, not this spring, but last spring, went about 100 kilometers up the river,
Holy
up Seal
smokes.
River, and did this trek, I think 3 times. One of them
No
was like
way.
really quickly going up and down these rivers. If you go onto the zoo, Assiniboine Park Zoo website, under conservation counts, I think conservation stories, there's a few blogs on our seal work, and there's a little animation that one of our colleagues did that shows this incredible, you know, commute from the freshwater to
And
the
we
sea.
assume that's a lady seal because they come up there with the for the breeding.
No, it's actually both males and females. So
Oh,
the females will come up into the river to pup, but the males are coming up at the same time, and we think there might be, you know, bigger social kind of activities that happen in in at these hollowed places.
Really similar to the belugas and the estuaries and the rivers they're using.
Yeah, kind of. The harbor seals are, we think of them as like central place foragers. They always go back to the exact same spot and then they'll go out for a trip. I think of it as like commuting to work. They're
Uh-huh.
like going out, doing their thing, eating, and then they come back home, which is the hollowed. Whereas belugas, they're coming back to the estuaries, but they're also probably, moving a lot more and using different estuaries over the course of the year. Um, and not necessarily coming back and forth at the same regularity that the seals are.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Anyways, this spring we tagged 6 harbor seals, so it was very exciting.
Cool. I know we've seen a few over the last week, so we are definitely on the lookout for seals. Are definitely harder to spot for our people viewing from home, but we do. It is easier to tell when we see a seal here in the river because they kind of lurk on top a little longer. Apparently, the very first couple days the boat was in the water, the Zodiacs, they saw a couple ring seals in the ice flow.
Mm.
Kyron and I went back out to try to find them, but no luck. And I believe that everything we've seen in here since then that I've seen is a harbor seal. Because if I remember correctly, the only other option is a bearded, and that's really obviously because of
Yeah.
the whiskers. But otherwise, that's the only seal that we would seal in here, like you said,
Yeah,
right?
I'm reluctant to be 100% on anything.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
However, it seems like ring seals are really like the sea ice. So as soon as that sea ice is gone, we don't see ring seals around as much. So
Do we know where they
does it
go?
mean they could be coming in here? They could. There's nothing to
Oh,
stop them. We don't have a good sense of where the ones in Churchill are going or the ones that we see off the coast.
yeah.
Probably into deeper water to forage. And part of the problem is it's a lot harder to tag ring seals
Because they're
than harbor
quicker,
seals.
right?
No, it's almost more of a timing logistics thing. So because we're gluing on tags, they need to have molted or else it'll fall off right away. And ring
Okay.
seals are molting in the spring. They're hauling out on the sea ice. You can see them from the shore when you're in Churchill in the spring. So it needs to be after they've molted, so the satellite tag will stick on.
Uh-huh.
But usually by that time, there's these big pesky white whales that are around
Oh.
that go into your nets. So you can't put nets in the water without risking the beluga whales. So
It looks like
we
there's some hanky-panky with some big old white whales here,
yeah,
kind of rolling slowly and hovering near the surface.
some socialization.
Hopefully coming to our boat one right now. We'll watch that. Oh,
Nice.
hooray. See, all we have to do is get stuff on talking and they flock. Flock to the boat. I apologize for the interruption.
No, not at all. I cannot even tell you how many times I've been talking only to have a bear or a whale or a seal do something
Hey,
and
I'm here for
capture
it.
the crowd. So
Yeah. It's a
I'm
good
well versed.
It's a good sign. That means they do like you.
Yeah.
We've got Cassandra back this year too with Polar Bears International. I know she studied seals. I think specifically the ring ones, because that's the ones polar bears like. So maybe we could ask her about if she has any further data on where they're going and what they're doing. But yeah, thanks for answering that question. I can take that if you want to get back there and do some sciencing with the beluga whales now that we've got them close. Like I said, guys, keep those questions coming if you have anything. The amount of knowledge on this boat today is making me very excited. So I'll try to keep tuning on that mic for any casual conversation that we have that might interest you. But if we do see any questions, we'll do our best to answer them. In the meantime, hopefully we'll hear those belugas singing. of our halfway point, so if we are gonna... Hello, Beluga friends. We were just discussing our plan of attack as we're about halfway through the tour. Our scientists are looking to get some underwater footage with, looks like Stefan has brought a 3D camera. So I think we'd like to try to deploy that a little later. But it is something we do at a slower speed, obviously. But because old Captain Tara has kept a keen eye on the harbor entrance, or the bay entrance, excuse me, I think I've spotted a couple possible bergy bits that may have floated in. So in the spirit of keeping it Arctic Sea Ice Week, we just want to lift that underwater camera and get closer to the mouth of the river, the opening into Hudson Bay, and see if that ice is as close as we think it is, because it looks like if I have spotted some ice, it might be even a bigger couple pieces than yesterday. So as we're about halfway through, we're going to go check that out. And that'll give us lots of time to get back in the river and keep our search on for the beluga whales. What we're going to do, as always, when we go at speed, we like to raise our underwater camera to make sure that we don't do any damage to that while we're traveling at speed. So please do enjoy the on-deck camera while we make our way out there and see if we have indeed spotted an ice flow. And should we realize that's a optical illusion or an ice flow, we'll get back on and let you know. But in the spirit of Arctic Sea Ice Day and trying to keep it Arctic Sea Ice Week, we think it's worthwhile to go have a look at. So please stay tuned, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Hello, Beluga buddies, and thank you for your patience. I just want to give a special shout out to Cloud for her post on the message board. Cam up, surfs up, and she has imposed a little dolphin surfing on our wake there. We all got a kick out of that, so thanks, Cloud. That's awesome. So, we have come out to Eskimo Point, which is essentially the very last little tip of land that we can see coming off the Churchill River. For those of you that had tuned in before, we have to come out around Eskimo Point to get into Button Bay, which is the neighboring bay. Often, when we're seeking out bears, this is where we find them, just past the Fort Churchill there. So, if you are catching that little last sight of land as we get in, know that we've come out as far as we can. But I'm going to put my cam ops to the test here because what looked to more than one of us on the boat, and by more than one of us I mean more than me, we all agreed that the ice looked very close and we thought we'd zip out to see it. But now that we're here, I don't know if our cam ops can zoom in on that horizon, it is significantly farther than it looked while we're in the river. And unfortunately, I think too far for us to head out, especially with four of us in the boat. Delphi moves a little bit slower. But in true science style, Stefan has notified us about an ice optical illusion that he learnt about during his time in the Arctic. So I thought it would be worth it. We came all the way out here, so I thought it would be worth it to share the ice optical illusion that we have just experienced. So I'll pass it off to Stefan to explain that. And you should be live. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, thanks. So, I'm not the expert, but I'm sure that there will be links posted. But there's an optical illusion, and it's called Fata Morgana. So Fata Morgana. I'm not going to spell that out.
Got her.
And so what happens is when there's ice on the water and the air above it, I guess must have to be fairly calm and heated by the sun. You get a situation where the ice cools a layer of air right above where that ice is, and then it's hot air above that. So you get this kind of little temperature inversion. And so what happens then is light that is, reflecting from the sun off an iceberg gets caught and bent in that cold air layer over top of the sea ice. And what that does for us is that it makes things look bigger and look closer. So the other day when we were out, it looked like there was a ginormous wall of ice kind of offshore. And then when we looked at the satellite imagery later that day, it was about 20 kilometers away. When I just pulled up the satellite image from today, probably earlier today, and the closest big pieces of ice are about 30 kilometers away from where we are right now. There's probably smaller bergy bits that are closer, but that, it's a beautiful hot day today. It's pretty calm, so we probably saw an enhanced and closer iceberg when we were in the estuary because of that optical illusion.
Yeah, and that's what we were kind of just, I was, trying to clarify my understanding of this because I think optical illusions are always hard to understand. But even I said, so you'd only want to see this on or you only would see this on a hot day, and then Stefan pointed out that maybe it's more like calm air, aka not windy, over hot, because that's what's going to allow the coldness of off the ice to get into that air and then sit there, right? And then what was the thing you were saying about even sometimes the inversion? Like you'll see if like an iceberg almost upside down?
Yeah, so evidently it can be you can have quite strong, I guess, inversions where it will look like things are completely reversed. So there's almost a mirror of them in the sky. So you can see and there's photos on the internet, it looks like there's like icebergs that are suspended over top of the horizon.
Yeah, I've
And
seen that, and I always just thought I questioned myself because I'd never heard of this, but like I have heard of like snow blindness, and I thought maybe it was something similar. Obviously, you're not blind; you're seeing something, but almost like if you've been staring at white ice all day, if your eyes start to mess up, but it's
Yeah.
actually based on like a temperature change.
yeah. So this optical illusion, snow blindness is like damage to your
Yeah,
retina.
yeah, it's like like getting a weld flash.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
the same. I get that, but in the idea of your eyes
Yeah.
are the problem, not of the visual, right?
Yeah, and I think there's like historical, like old, like whalers etchings where it looks like a ship is in the distance but floating upside down, and odd things like that that
Oh,
people have reported seeing when
not
this
just
happens.
ice.
Yeah, so if it's like a ship in icy, cool water and the right situations, it could happen as well, and it'll flip all of those things.
Yeah, because it got me to thinking about like sailing and stuff. I follow, it. I don't know if I want to say it'd be a dream to sail around Antarctica. It'd probably be a little bit of a version of a nightmare, but I do follow people that sail around there. But usually, like the conditions are so wild, and there's not that sun, right? It's a lot of gray sky. Because I'm thinking like you think you'd hear more reporting back from sailors doing that, but truthfully, they're not getting these like sunshiny days down there while they're doing that usually, right?
And the winds around Antarctica are
Constant.
significantly more.
Yeah.
Because the Arctic has lots of land, and I think that there's probably more likely to
There's
have
that
a calm day
calmness.
here and there that you wouldn't get that, whereas
That's
the
so
Southern
neat.
Ocean is
Heck
pretty
yeah.
bouncy.
Yeah, I mean what do they say, the roaring 40s and the raging 50s or something in terms of latitudes for sailing. So definitely windy. Um, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but it just got me to thinking about like optical illusions related to water. Do you know, is that the same for like deserts seeing water? It's the heat coming off the land, isn't it? That like does something to the air that makes it look like water? Or am I speaking
I
out of
think
turn
that
there?
might be another one. So we'll get the same sort of illusion, or I don't know if it's illusion. There's probably someone who knows exactly. But in the spring when we're up here and it's a really hot day, we'll see like shimmers.
Yeah, like that light refracting
Yeah.
off the ground. Like it looks like it's steaming almost.
Yeah.
But
So
it's
there's heat, I don't know, being collected in weird ways, and it's reflecting the light, so it makes everything look wobbly and shimmery. So I
Right.
don't know if that's the same.
it must be a little
thing
bit different
or-
in the desert because it's, you're obviously seeing water. But
Yeah.
again, I also think like, is that related to dehydration and people that have been stuck in the desert for too long?
Yeah.
Point being. Because I think Kayla was just pointing out, we do hear stories from sailors and people who have been stuck at sea too long. But, as science develops, we find out more and more
Yeah.
scientific reasons that maybe they weren't so crazy.
I suspect the strange things that you see on a long voyage are a combination of physics and physiology.
Yeah, I'll report back next year because we didn't cross the ocean this year, but we do expect that to be about a 3.5 week journey. So I'll let you guys know if I see any wacky refractions or anything, especially I guess in the doldrums. There's no wind there, so I'll be on the lookout if we float there for a while, but most people try to get through that pretty quick. I don't know how we did for the viewers. I can see a little bit of that on deck camera on our message board here, but I don't know if the zoom in helped you guys and you were able to see some bits on the horizon or not, but we did try, so there's that. And we can confirm that there was some Arctic sea ice. So just because we didn't drive around it doesn't mean it isn't there. So I think we're still on track for Arctic Sea Ice Week. Fingers crossed for tomorrow. But it is a very hot week here in Churchill. So I imagine we're going to see that ice evaporating pretty quickly as the temperatures remain shorts and tank tops weather, which is, as we all know, very rare up here. So
Have you talked a bit about how the ice is quite weird this year?
no, but please speak to it. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so normally the pattern of ice melt and currents is pretty predictable in Hudson's Bay. And what happens is as that ice starts to melt and break up, the currents and the prevailing winds actually move it away from Churchill and away from western Hudson's Bay. And it ends up along the coast of Ontario, more in like south central and eastern Hudson's Bay. And so the bears would typically be out there when that ice concentration gets to about 30%. They're they're done with it. And we know from satellite collared bears that they kind of leave the ice when it's about 30% cover and come to shore. But normally they're coming to shore south of Wapusk National Park, near the Nelson, along the Ontario coast. So this year, there was winds that pushed all that ice into western Hudson's Bay, and that ice is hung out here. Like most of eastern Hudson's Bay is like unusually empty of ice.
I
and it's
saw a photo, which
yeah.
is wild.
Yeah, so there's some colleagues that are doing sea ice modeling and kind of have looked at the stats to say this is a very strange year.
Yeah.
And I think from the bear side of things, we're quite interested in what those bears are going to do. So instead of being dropped off on the shore where they want to be in many cases, like females that are going into denning areas, they're going to be dropped off or come ashore potentially like hundreds of kilometers north.
Or are they going to swim to their regular spot? Are they going to go to the closest land and then travel on land?
Yeah. Are we going to see bears moving the opposite direction through Churchill than we do earlier in the season? They're coming and then they're going towards Wapusk from here, as opposed to normally in the fall we'll see them coming kind of from the Wapusk direction, trying to get north to meet up with sea ice.
Right.
Maybe they're just going to go to shore and be in Arviat and hang out in, or not Arviat, but Nunavut, and hang out in Nunavut and not come down into the park.
So just for anybody who's not clear, I know we've got a map on the message board about where Churchill is, just to throw some of those names. Wapusk National Park is south of us, and Ariat is a town north of us.
Yeah, so
closer to Arviat. Thank you. Is it in Nunavut or is it still Manitoba? Okay, so it is in just like our next territory up. They have a similar issue with bears to Churchill. So when Stefan's talking about the way the bears are migrating, we're talking about north and south of Churchill. Because the other thing I was going to say about the ice at the bears, obviously you've been coming up a lot longer than I have, but my experience 6 years ago was that there was bears right up until the middle of November. It was snowy. It was freezing cold. I think that was about normal. Maybe the sea ice came in a little bit early that year, because I know as they were guiding, the last kind of week of tour was minimal bear viewings. And then my only other examples last year, when of course we know there was like all the sea ice was really melted about a month earlier than I think people are used to. So bears were in town and coming off the water like almost a month early. And then by the time I left again in November, we still hadn't seen the sea ice because it had been so warm. So there was still bears here. I think we had one little ice blow in. A bunch of the bears left, and then the ice blew out and it was gone again. So like last year wasn't the best year at all. But this year now we're seeing that ice sticking around longer, and we don't even really know where the bears are, right?
Yeah, Hudson's Bay is very variable year to year. It's always been a very variable system. And then we look at these longer term trends, which are for earlier ice breakup and later freeze up. I think in the last, it's always hard to remember what happened yesterday, and then even more so last week and last year. But we've had, a couple good years, and then last year was
I think last year
not
2
great.
years in a row were really limited ice.
And then this year is weird. Like, there's bears probably out on that sea ice. I think we actually, from the satellite or from the ear-tagged bears, the last map that I saw, a lot of bears were still out on that sea ice.
Yeah, because in the
So,
center of the bay, it's looking prominent, right?
yeah, so if they're able to keep hunting, they're going to keep hunting.
And keep feeding, which
It's
is
just
good.
like, how much energy are they going to expend
To swim
to
back.
get back to where they want to be? And maybe they don't care where they want to be. They'll just come ashore,
Yeah.
whatever's easiest, and it'll be a Nunavut, and
Yeah.
it'll be
Yeah, it'll
good.
be interesting to see if they come back to Churchill and there's these populations, or do they just like take the bus and get off at the closest stop to
Yeah.
land? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's probably like absolutely better for them to keep being out there and keep hunting, because the ring seals will stay on the ice as long as they can too, right?
Yeah, there'll be ring seals and bearded seals. We think of harbor seals as being more of a near shore species. So they'll, where the ice is now, I think that, wow, we measured it, it's about 30 kilometers or more. I think there's like a 50-meter contour line that's a bit further out, and that's usually where the land-fast ice will stop. Harbor seals are kind of on this side of that line, so they're
Yeah.
in that shallower water. They're foraging on the shallows, in the shallows for fish and other things. So they're not sticking with the ice the way the harbor seals and the bearded seals will be.
Okay, interesting. But I mean, seals are seals to polar bears. I mean, right? They'll kind of take what they can get.
Yeah, they'll definitely take what they can get. Bearded seals tend to be bigger and
Chewier?
Yeah.
I knew it!
So you have to be, or at least their skin is like super tough. You use it for traces, or Inuit have used it for like traces on dog teams. It's like the perfect
Okay,
for that.
fair
Ropes.
enough.
But it takes a big polar bear to take a big seal like that. So
Okay.
it's generally the males that are going after those, whereas ring seals are easy peasy for a polar bear.
Yeah.
So that's really what supports all the females and females with cubs and the growing subadult bears that aren't big enough to take the big prey.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we talk a lot about the amount of weight bears lose on land over the summer, during their summer hiatus, if you will. I don't think we call it a hibernation per se, but we say they can lose up to 1 kilogram a day, but I don't know if we have any like stats on swimming. I know they burn a lot of more calories swimming than they do walking around on land, but do you have a ratio? Do you know that? Is there something we could compare? Like, oh, it's better to be on the ice and have one hard swim and then lose those, let's say 14 days on land where you're losing 1 kilogram a day?
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I would guess that they are spending more energy if they're swimming, partially because not only are they spending that energy to actually swim, which
Yeah.
is their less efficient way to move. They're perfectly good swimmers, but they're better walkers. But then they also take on a thermal cost because they're losing heat a lot faster when they're in the water, even
yeah.
with all that insulation. So, I would imagine that they're spending more energy if they have long swims.
Well, and not to mention if we've got mama bears with kois or cub of the year, so they're bringing that 1-year-old cub with them. Gosh, a swim that long would be terrible for a cub, right? Maybe even fatal.
I've seen some adorable photos of cubs swim just like sitting on mom's back when she goes for a long
Yeah,
swim.
I'm sure mom appreciates
So,
that.
yeah, so there's some adaptations for them to do.
Yeah.
I think the longest recorded swim for a polar bear was in Beaufort Sea, and I may be off by 100 kilometers or so, but I think it was 9 days swim straight, about, I want to say like 800 kilometers.
I think I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about, and I was going to say
And
800,
then
so I think you're spot
onto
on.
land, and then like 1,200 kilometer or 1,500 kilometer walk back to where that was captured
Oh my
the first time.
gosh.
And during that time, I think she lost like 22% of her weight and
Whew.
the cub that she started the journey with. So
Aw.
there's big costs to
Yeah.
long distances for bears coming off this ice. Hudson's Bay is only 1,000 kilometers across, so
Yeah.
I would imagine that it's like not an intimidating swim for even a mom with cubs,
Yeah.
because they are just awesome in the water.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's still, that's definitely too long. I wonder, it'll be really interesting to see what we see over the summer in terms of bears. I know Courtney and Casey, thank you. Sorry, I got a Casey and a Kayla on the boat, and I'm trying really hard not to mix them up. But they were actually out walking south of town the other day at one of the really cool sights to see in Churchill, which is a shipwreck called the Ithaca. And they said that they had saw a bear swimming into land from shore. So that is the second bear that I've heard of. I think someone had spotted one about a week ago. So definitely not as many as this time last year, but I mean, I think that's a good thing. But well, stay tuned, guys, if we happen to see more bears as the month rounds out into the summer. But, for the sake of the town and the bears, hopefully not. But we'll let you know when we do see them. Did you have anything else to add about that?
No, I think I'm probably good.
Okay. Anywho, that is our adventure out to the bay and our optical illusion talk about ice in commemoration of Arctic Sea Week. So thanks for tuning in and bearing with us while we came out here. One more time, guys, I'm going to fire up the speed a little bit so that underwater camera is going to come up. And we're going to head back into the mouth of the river to seek out those beluga whales. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll check the message board when we get further in if there was any questions about anything that we can follow up on. Thanks. Hey friends, I wanted to mention too, it looks like you guys have posted some amazing things. Thank you for our cam ops. The Ithaca shipwreck, and then also the polar bear tracking map there. That's great. I did want to show you guys, but it looks like, I think cloud is all over this. Because I was going to say, if you wanted to get those aerial views that our scientists are looking at for where the ice is, and what the ice in the Arctic and Hudson Bay and all the things looks like. NASA aerial view, I think if you Googled that, oh, sorry, excuse me, NASA world view. If you did a quick Google on that, you can probably see some snapshots that NASA has taken, maybe from the space station as it's orbiting. And then I see Cloud has posted also an awesome link of the last 10 days of sea ice concentration, where you can see that, like Stefan was saying, there's that big chunk of ice on the western side of Hudson Bay, creeping down into the south. So just for anybody who's kind of wondering why that's different, often that, you're going to rotate that counterclockwise to more the southern part of Hudson Bay, and that's normally what we're seeing in terms of ice this time of year. It ends up more in the south as opposed to the west side. So exciting that the polar bears are able to stay out there, and like Stefan said, it's about 30K off land as of today. So yeah, thanks for all the support on with those links from our moderators, and everybody else is contributing. That's totally rad. Oh gosh, and Stefan, you'll have to have a look at this. Fata Morenga can make ships like they're flying in the sky, and Cloud has managed to find a picture of a tall ship with a bazillion square sails floating above the water. So I have seen that before, and I didn't know that that was the same phenomenon. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe Stefan was just saying he thought they were inverted, so it'd be upside down. But it's probably just having to do with some ice concentrations that are changing that refraction of the air in front of the ship, maybe. Oh, that's just a rad thing to share, you guys. Thank you so much for. I'm gonna have to catch up on all these photos. So we're back in the bay. We're trolling along. We're back in the river, trolling along. We have seen some belugas. I'm gonna drop that camera, and I think Stefan wants to try to get his 3D camera in the water too. So hopefully, with something new in the water, we'll get some more underwater footage. Okay, thanks for all your help, guys. Here we go, beluga whales. Here we come. Got an hour and a half to go. Hey there, Beluga buddies. Back with Captain Tara and the gang here today. So we're about getting winding down here on our tour. About a half hour left. We are back in the Churchill River estuary, and hopefully you guys are seeing some action on that on deck cam. I haven't seen much going on with our underwater camera. It kind of looks like the whales are doing a little bit of feeding behavior, kind of like I said earlier today. Not, I wouldn't call it a frenzy, but just slow, gradual feeding. So we're trying to just stay in their area, but not bother them too much. So hopefully, I'm doing a good job of getting that camera pointed at them for you. I see that we have Valor D posting on the message board and caught up on all the shares from Cloud and whatnot. Thank you for sharing that those links, Cloud. They were really awesome. And just to see some of the stuff about the ice in the bay and the optical illusion, we did have a really fun time today. Considering it was a little bit slow for the whales. So some really great conversations with sorry, excuse me. We've got some horsefly friends today too. Some really good conversations with Dr. Stefan and Casey from the Assiniboine Park Zoo, and then of course our guest from Polar Bears International, Casey. So super happy to have everybody join us today. And like I said, we've got about a half hour left of Beluga viewing. Hey, Beluga buddies. We're back and just getting close to finishing up the tour here. Hopefully, you guys caught some of those feeding whales on that on deck cam. We were trying to make sure to put them in your view, but they kind of seem to be sporadically on the move. You might catch some in our rear view here as we make our way back towards the port and the boat launch. Just a couple fun tips for next time. We were just commenting with Stefan and the group here that this time last year we were also doing a lot of talking about jellies and jellyfish and how they're also tying that into some beluga research. And this year we haven't really said much at all about them. I have yet to see a jelly. I haven't seen our cam ops or moderators or anybody, I don't think, has posted any pics of jellies so far. We are still in our first week, so we're not going to be too hard on ourselves about that. But just something to be mindful of. We'll maybe be on the lookout for those jellies in the upcoming days and next week. Hopefully, if the water's nice and calm. And Stefan was just letting me know that Courtney, one of our other guests from the Assiniboine Park Zoo, she was on with me the other day. She's been tracking a little bit of, I think through that NASA imagery that we were referring to earlier, she has been tracking some algae blooms. And based on a photo that Stefan just showed me, it looks like there's a little bit of bloom happening in the Hudson Bay here as we speak, because that NASA data is updated daily, if not, every 12 or to 6 hours. And maybe that's going to seep a little bit into the river estuaries and affect the color and or quality and clarity of our water. So stay tuned. Maybe that's something we can ask Courtney about the next time she is on. And I just do like to verbalize that in case I forget and one of our team members here remembers. We'll talk to Courtney about some algae blooms and see what she's got to say about jellyfish. So we're just make our way back to the bay here, nice and slow. As we get closer to the port, I will come on and sign off for the day. But we do thank everybody for tuning in with us and enjoying this beautiful sunset. Though the horseflies or bulldogs or whatever you call them from your neck of the woods were out, I think we've all avoided bites despite a little bit of arm flailing and sometimes some vocalizations from myself. And we have had a lovely day. It's been super nice and warm out on the water. Okay, Beluga buddies, that is going to be it for today. What do we got? Wednesday, July 17th. I think we had a pretty decent day. We learned a lot about mirages, though we did see actual sea ice, but we learned that it was really far away. We got to be a part of some feeding frenzies, some good viewing on that underwater cam at the start of the day, and just some beautiful weather for us on the boat. It was really exciting to welcome Stefan back for the season. We will see him in the upcoming days, as well as Casey and Kayla from Polar Bears International. They will both be returning, so we're excited to have them in the future. Thank you to Explore.org and Polar Bears International making this possible. We're all just so excited to be out here and observing this beautiful experience with the belugas every day. So eternally grateful to those two groups. Make sure you're tuning into all the cameras that you can. Some great walrus footage I saw earlier today, so you can check the live walrus cam in your spare time. My camera operators and moderators really make the magic happen, especially on the slow days, by sharing some of that information and those links. So thank you so much, guys, for just taking a hot minute to go seek those links out and share them with all our viewers. It is greatly appreciated, as we can only describe things with words over the mic here so much. So thank you so much, and doing your best to capture that sea ice for us today. We appreciate it. And thanks to all the viewers and our Beluga Bit comrades. We appreciate those snapshots, and the Assiniboine Park Zoo is using those like crazy, as we've heard from our zoo friends when they come up here, talking about how that technology has helped them so much and changed and been so beneficial over the last couple of years. So please keep viewing, please keep taking those snapshots, and tell your friends all about it. I want to encourage you to join me tomorrow, Captain Tara, on the water again. Our tide times are getting a little bit later as the week goes on. So it looks like tomorrow is going to be about 4:30 to 8 o'clock on Central Manitoba time. So if that's not too late for you where you're at, please do join us then, and I will just sign off for the day. You'll notice I've lifted up that underwater cam. We're just pulling into the port here, so I think our cameras will shut off here in the next few minutes, but we do appreciate you joining us, and I hope you guys have a great evening. Captain Tara signing off.